Hi there guys and welcome to episode 21 of Jonesy's Question Time. That's crazy. It only feels like I've done about 10 of these. I've done 21 of them. That's 21 weeks of this channel having this content on. That's pretty crazy. And this week we've got a bit of a bumper episode actually. I only had a few questions in. And I asked out on Twitter and also on Facebook for people to send the questions in. And I've ended up getting 9 altogether. So instead of kind of spreading it out over the next 2 episodes, I thought, sod it, I'll do it all in one go because after last week there was only 4 questions last week, and I thought it was a bit weak. So I thought, sod it, let's go for a bumper episode this time round. So let's where shall we start? Let's start with. Daniel Eatwell on YouTube asks, what is your political alignment and what do you think of Jeremy Corbyn being leader of the Labour Party? I've started with a quite a deep one there, haven't I? I very rarely, apart from the video that I did just before the elections, I very rarely kind of talk about politics on YouTube because I don't think it is the best thing to really talk about. I think especially on YouTube and on the internet, you just can cause so many arguments and get into trouble, but you just set so many things off with people arguing from different, right and left and Conservative and Labour and Lib Dems and BNP and UKIP and everything, and it can just get a little bit messy, so I tend not to really talk about it too much. At the moment, and really since sort of 2010, since the 2010 election, I don't really kind of assign myself to a particular party as such. I was very much Lib Dem back then, as a student. They were saying all the right things and everything at the time, and everyone knows how that ended. And that really put me off specific parties, really. Kind of before that, my family has generally been sort of Labour voters, but yeah, whilst Ed Miliband's been in charge, I've not really been that too fussed, and just in general, I just all the parties, I just feel like I can't trust any of them, and there's not really been any of them that have kind of reached out to me and really grabbed my attention. One thing I can say is I'm certainly nowhere near the right. I'm not a Tory or a Conservative. I very much kind of dislike a lot of what they stand for. I hate the upper class toffery kind of side of things. The whole fox hunting debacle and everything. The majority of them are very much against equal rights and gay rights. Which is always disappointing. So not all of them, certainly not all of them. In fact, my local MP is a Conservative, and he's actually a gay man himself. So he's one of the decent ones. But in general, I'm very much against a kind of Tory Conservative government. But if I had to say, I would definitely be more of a lefty. Not so far left. That I'm actually Jeremy Corbyn style. He's probably one of the most left Labours leaders that we've ever seen, which is why so many of the Labour MPs seem to be against him. But is why he's kind of shouting out to a lot of the public, really, and obviously why he, essentially got voted in. My actual thoughts on him, I actually like him. Like I say, he's a lot more left than me. He's so left that he's very much against the death penalty in any circumstances and things like that, whereas, in certain circumstances I do believe in the death penalty. But in general, I think he is just what the Labour Party needed. I think it needed a big shake-up, and it needs a really decent opponent to the Tories at the moment, and I think Jeremy Corbyn is just the guy to do that. I'm not necessarily saying that I'm a Labour supporter and I'm behind him, but if I was to choose out of any of them at the moment, I would certainly say I believe more in what he is wanting to do more than any of the other ones. So that's, I don't like to say I sit on the fence. I have a lot of strong views on politics and everything, but there's not really any real political party out there that I really would assign myself to in that way. So yeah, that's my answer. So thank you for that, Daniel. A very deep but interesting start to Jones's Question Time this time round. James Eady asks, what's behind you? Well, at the moment, I will put a picture up on screen. I will take it now. So to my right of my right shoulder, I've currently got where my CD player is, and you can see a part of my nerd shelf at the top there. I think you can see Ezio and Altair, and you can see the top of some of the Big Bang Theory pop vinyls. You can see all my toiletries and things there, and my shaver and whatnot, and my cough lozenges from last week. And you can see my CD collection up there. Yes, CDs, they are still a thing, people. And to my left, you will just see my bedside table. You see my window and my old football trophies. And yeah, you'll see my little TARDIS clock there, and my Doctor Who wallet, and little bits of notes and scrap paper that's on there, and you'll also see a Jim Beam and Coke, because that's what I need to get through doing YouTube videos these days, it seems. So that's what's behind me, James. So thank you very much for sending that question in, pal. Let's do something different. Matty has asked me, what are your thoughts on the current political climate in Djibouti? In general, I think that President Ismail Omar Guelleh is doing a pretty decent job. He seems to be keeping everyone happy at the moment. There doesn't seem to be any real unrest, and he's keeping the peace and everything, which is good. Unfortunately, though, Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed has unfortunately seen what David Cameron's been doing, in his private time, and he's seen it all in the papers, and he's actually asked for his own pig, his own personal pig, and in a greatly Islamic country, that could cause a little bit of an issue. So I'd definitely watch out for this one over the coming weeks. There could be a lot going on in Djibouti, actually. So thank you very much for that question, Matty. It's difficult times in Djibouti at the moment, I must admit. Moving on. Steve has asked me on Twitter, who is the best football pundit on TV at the moment? There's not that many. I think on terrestrial TV, like ITV for me, is not really the greatest. BBC, not so much really. I think Sky really is the best. I particularly like Thierry Henry since he's joined. He's surprised me, actually. I didn't think he was going to be that good, but he's quite insightful, actually, and he speaks well about the game, actually, which has been a big surprise. But I think for me, and it pains me to say it, and a lot of people agree with me, for me it's got to be Gary Neville. And saying that as a Leeds United fan really is painful, because I absolutely hated him as a player. But he really is probably one of the best pundits and co-commentators that we've had on Sky for quite a long while, really. He pulls no punches. He says it as it is. He is never, from what I've heard or seen, he's never really been biased towards Man United, which I think everyone was expecting from him. And yeah, he really just say it as it is. There's never any real bullshit that's come out of his mouth. Obviously, there's things that you don't always agree with, but that's football at the end of the day. Everything's open to debate. So I would definitely have to say Gary Neville. I love the banter that kind of him and Jamie Carragher have. I'm not so much of a fan as Jamie Carragher, not just because of his voice, but just, he's okay. He's not bad. He's not as bad as some people say he is, but he just doesn't seem to fit it right. There's just something that doesn't sit right with me with him. But I do like the kind of chemistry that those two have together talking about it. But yeah, in general, I would have to say at the moment, Steve, Gary Neville. Like I say, it really does hurt to say that. But there's not really that much else great going on with punditry. I don't want to talk about the likes of Andy Townsend and people like that and Alan Shearer. So we'll move away from that. Next up, well, we've got two questions actually from two girls that actually have their own YouTube channels, but I'll give them a shout out in a minute. But the first one is from BioJinx, otherwise known as Jamie, and she has asked, did you always want to work on YouTube, or was it a spur of the moment thing? Looking back on it, I suppose it was just a spur of the moment thing, really. Because I didn't. I mean, it'll be 3 years this year that since I set up my YouTube channel. So it was 2012. I think October 2012 when I started doing it. And at the time, I only really used or watched YouTube for, music videos and funny videos and everything. I don't know how I'd managed to miss it, but I'd never really noticed that people did YouTube as a thing, as a job, like whether it was gaming or vlogging or giving advice and everything. It never entered my head for some reason. Someone that had done a journalism degree and everything and kind of worked in the media, you'd think I might have noticed it, but somehow it had passed me by. And I think I was searching for gameplay footage of LA Noire, and I'd seen Tobuscus doing it, and I was like, people actually do this as a living. People actually just play games and commentate over it for a job. And it just got me thinking, because at the time I'd left university, things quite hadn't worked out as I'd wanted in the journalism job that I'd been in, so I was unemployed, and I was basically going down a completely different route job-wise. And I just thought, as something to keep kind of my journalism interest going in communicating with other people and talking about things that I love doing, I just thought, why not set up a YouTube channel? And at first I thought I'd just do a couple of vlogs and talk about football and things that I care about in general life and everything. And then I thought, I love gaming as well, why not give that a go? So really, looking back on it, although it took me a while to get into it properly, and kind of think, I want to do this full time one day. In general, it was a spur of the moment thing, probably over a weekend. It made me think of it. So yeah, it was very spur of the moment, and it was the best decision I've ever made. I'd love to say that I work on YouTube. Well, I mean, I do a lot of work for it, but it's to be able to be paid and just doing this full time will be the greatest thing ever, really. I enjoyed the job that I have at the moment, but it's not quite YouTube. So thank you very much for that question, Jamie. And her partner in crime, Linux, or Lauren, as she's better known, asked, what type of music do you listen to? I've touched on it a couple of times before with like my favourite bands and everything, but in general, the kind of music I listen to, I kind of have a wide variety of what I listen to. Basically, if I enjoy a piece of music, then I enjoy it, no matter what genre of music it is. In general, I tend to stay away from sort of rap, R&B, that kind of scene. Proper underground, grimy kind of music. That doesn't do anything for me. Drum and bass, stuff like that. So if I was to kind of put myself in a bracket, I would definitely say more your kind of rock music. Kind of today's rock music. I'm very much a fan of, Offspring, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Green Day, bands like that and everything. Definitely your pop, punk, ska kind of thing. The likes of, Blink-182, Less Than Jake, of course, Real Big Fish and all. Basically, if you pick up the Teenage Dirtbag album, 1 and 2, all the music on there I really love. And very much into classic rock as well, your 70s, 80s rock. You just can't beat it. It doesn't get better than that for me. So that's the main genre of music that I probably would say that I listen to. And I'm not really a fan of current music. I really worry about where music is going at the moment. I do, and I know it makes me sound like a grumpy old man at the age of 25, but some of it's just, it's not all bad, like I say. There are a few songs that I listen to and I think, oh, that's quite good, but in general, I do really worry. It just all seems to be going down the bloody X Factor route, and I can't stand it. So anyway, thank you very much for your question, Lauren. So yeah, if you want to check out Jamie and Lauren's channel, it's on, I think it's BioJinx. I will put the details in the description below, but go check their channel out. They're just past 50 subscribers. They do a lot of gaming and sort of real life vlogging stuff of what they've done and going to conventions and everything. Really, really great channel. Two girls that know what they want to do with YouTube, and it's really refreshing to see in a kind of community of YouTubers at the moment that kind of just want to do it for the money and everything. So yeah, definitely go give them a check out. Well worth it, and yeah, they're good for a laugh as well. So what have we got next? Steve Brown asks, why does Stevie Wonder wear glasses when he is blind? Now, this is a very good question, and I've done a bit of research into it, and it actually turns out there's a little bit of a conspiracy over this. Turns out that if you were to actually take Stevie Wonder's glasses off, then lasers actually shoot out of his eyes, and just one gaze at them and you're dead. And some say that it is a secret weapon from the Illuminati, and that any day they are going to unleash Stevie sort of into the wild, and he's going to basically just cut down a lot of the human population, really. So there is kind of a bit of Illuminati cover up there, but there's only ever been one sighting of his laser eyes, and that person didn't live very long afterwards to really tell the story properly. But yeah, it just makes you think next time you see Stevie Wonder performing live, just yeah, don't think about taking his glasses off him. So thank you very much, Steve, for that question there. Charlie, my good friend Charlie, President Turtle, of course, has asked me, what do you think to Doctor Who's ending and what's going to happen next week? I personally think it will be a radioactive bunny. Yeah, so he's obviously talking about the comeback of Doctor Who at the weekend on Saturday. So anything I talk about now, if anyone watching this does watch Doctor Who, then there is going to be spoilers. So now's the time to disappear and close your ears. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I'd been looking forward to it well all year basically since the last series ended. A part of me was anxious because although I did enjoy the last series, it didn't thrill me. You know, I didn't love it. You know, there were certain episodes, I think, although I wanted the Dark Doctor in Capaldi, I think they did take it a little bit too far possibly. But I do still like that dark undertone that he's got. But I think that the start of this series, hopefully if it carries on in this style, I think they've just got the right sort of chemistry with him. It's still got that dark undertone, but he does seem a little bit lighter. But my God, that first episode, I was just not expecting Davros. That was absolutely amazing. I mean, it had already been leaked that the Daleks were going to be in it and that Missy was going to be back in it. So it kind of, I was left thinking, oh, well, there can't be that much left to really disclose. But to introduce Davros into it, and especially giving the Doctor that choice, you know, saving this little child on this planet, and then finding out that it was actually Davros as like an 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid, and just playing that kind of role, and you know, do you save him, do you not? And then it progressing from there and tying it in perfectly with like my favourite ever Doctor Who story, Genesis of the Daleks, going back to Tom Baker back in the 70s. You know, he says in that episode, you know, if you go back in time and you see this child knowing that he grows up to be an evil monster that kills millions of people, would you kill that child back in that time? And he's exactly in that position now. And I just think it's glorious. I really do. Some people have slagged the premise of that off, saying that it's quite easily solvable. In the fact of, you know, you don't have to either kill him or let him survive. You could just take him away and bring him upright, basically, which is true, I suppose. But you know, there's no real fun in that. You know, you want a decent script out of it. So yeah, the way it was left, we're led to believe that Clara and Missy have died, and then it's obviously the story had been that Capaldi had left the child there to essentially die, and obviously we know that he didn't, and that Davros had led him back to Skaro to kind of guilt trip him into everything. And yeah, the very last scene is Peter Capaldi going back to Davros as a kid and potentially going to save him again. Now, I really don't know where it's going to go. I'm so confused about how it's going to go. I mean, the little clips we've seen has shown, because Davros is dying essentially, it's shown him getting more and more worked up. and seems to be getting healthier as well, which is worrying. And saying something about, Doctor, do you want to hold the beating heart of all the Daleks on Skaro or something? And I have no idea how he's going to get Clara and Missy back, because they were pretty much exterminated. So unless he is going to somehow rewrite time and mean that it never happened, I don't know. Unless maybe he is going to save the child and just bring him up right. I don't know, but then again, that would just completely destroy everything that had ever happened with the Daleks, and they'd never have existed. But then again, I don't know. There's always loopholes in Doctor Who. Stephen Moffat always manages to find ways around things, doesn't he? But put it this way, I'm really excited now for this series. I mean, I was before, but after this start, I'm really, really impressed. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on it, Charlie, anyway. And finally, this isn't actually a question that I've got an answer to, but John Milburn asked me on Facebook, and I think it's very interesting, and I'll just leave you with this. Why does quicksand work so slowly? I'm going to leave you with that and leave you to ponder it. It's an interesting question. So there we go, guys. That's the end of this week's bumper episode with lots of lovely questions. Really enjoyed that one. So many great questions. I hope you're also learning stuff about me through this. That's kind of wasn't the ultimate thing. The ultimate thing through this is to, converse and talk to different people and have a bit of fun. But ultimately, you're kind of getting to know who I am, really, through doing it and the answers that I give. So I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Thank you to everyone that has sent in questions, both on Twitter, on YouTube, and on Facebook. If you do want to leave questions for any future episodes, obviously I have none left now. So if you would like to leave more questions, then please do it below in the comment section or on any other of the Question Time videos. And make sure you just kind of keep it limited to those, just so I can keep track of it. And if you want to leave them at my Twitter, which is at ChrisJonesLUSC, if you would just leave the hashtag Jonesy's Question Time or something along those lines, again, just so it's easier for me to keep track of and I can keep them all in one place. But yeah, that'd be graciously appreciated if you could do that, guys. I'd like another good episode next week. So thank you very much for watching. If it's your first time here, please do leave a like and a subscribe, and until next time, guys, take care of yourselves, and I will see you all very soon.